3 bone-chilling true horror stories that haunt you forever, never told until now. The air was thick with unease that night, stretching across the sleepy town of Oakcrest like a dark blanket suffocating every flicker of light. It was the kind of night that seared itself into memory, where even the bravest souls dared not wander alone. It began with a blood-curdling scream that sliced through the silence, echoing off distant trees, sending shivers down spines, igniting fear that curled deep in the gut. What had happened? The shadows danced ominously on the walls as the town's whispers grew louder, tales of unspeakable horrors lurking in the corners of their reality. They said it was a haunted old house at the end of Lamp Post Lane, a crumbling symbol of dread that shook even the most skeptical hearts. It stood there, dark and brooding, with peeling paint that told stories of decay and neglect. Its windows were like hollow eyes, watching every move, and the wind whispered secrets of those who dared to enter. Maple leaves crunched beneath hesitant footsteps, a reminder of lives lost and spirits trapped. Local legends spoke of a girl who vanished within those rotting walls, her laughter replaced by ghostly cries that tickled the ears of the curious. Time and again, brave souls ventured into the abyss, only to be swallowed whole, leaving nothing but echoes behind. But that night, as the clock struck midnight, a chill slithered through town like an unwanted guest, instigating murmurs of a fresh horror that would leave an indelible mark. It was here that the wind howled, mixing with the scent of damp earth and rusted secrets. There in the shadows, figures started to emerge pale and desperate like remnants escaping their haunted memories. Eyes wide with terror, townsfolk gathered, whispering frantic possibilities among the flickering streetlights. Who had entered the house? What would they discover? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the crowd grew restless, a figure stepped forward, spine tingling and eyes burning with resolve. It was Carrie, the town's most tenacious investigator, her hands trembling yet determined. She ventured closer to the house, drawn by the unyielding pull of mystery. What waited beyond that doorway? Silence engulfed her like an icy embrace, only interrupted by her pounding heart. And just as she reached for the doorknob, an unsettling sound reverberated, a low moan followed by a chilling laughter that sent a shock through every onlooker. What had the house unleashed this time? Were they prepared for the truth lurking in the dark? The door creaked open. The heavy door swung open with a slow and haunting creak, each note reverberating in the chilling stillness. A dark abyss welcomed Carrie, gaping like a hungry mouth. The air was colder inside, a sinister invitation that enveloped her as she stepped over the threshold. The townsfolk held their breath, their wide eyes reflecting both trepidation and morbid curiosity. Be careful, a voice trembled from the back, startling even Carrie, who barely turned to see the source. The shadows pooled around her, obscuring her vision. Flickering candlelight spotted a staircase that spiraled upward, its banister worn and splintered like the memories tied to it. Stay close, she whispered to herself, gathering her resolve. As she moved deeper, the musty scent of mold and decay clawed at her lungs. The chilling laughter echoed again, now sharper, as if inviting her to play a game. Who's there? Carrie called out, trying to sound brave, though her voice wavered. The silence pressed in, suffocating, and for a fleeting moment, she thought about turning back. But the thought of the girl who had vanished held her in place like chains. She had to know what had happened. Carrie edged further, her footsteps muffled by the worn carpet. Each room was a crypt of memories, filled with relics of a time long gone. Furniture draped in white sheets loomed like ghosts, and the walls whispered. Distant creaks and soft thuds felt alive, pulsating like a heartbeat. She paused at the first room, A small study with a cracked globe and dust-covered bookshelves. Shadows loomed like gnarled fingers reaching out to her, and instinctively, she stepped back. A sudden noise sent a jolt of fear down her spine, a loud thump from above, followed by a frantic rustling. Did someone else enter? Her heart pounded like a drum as she decided to climb the staircase, its wooden steps protesting under her weight. Each step brought her deeper into an ominous dance with fate. When she reached the landing, the laughter escalated into a cacophony, swirling around her like an evil storm. "No, no," she gasped, gripping the banister tightly as dread filled her chest. But she pressed forward, drawn to a door at the end of the hallway. It was partially ajar, a sliver of darkness inviting her in. Swallowing hard, she pushed it open. The room was stifling, cloaked in shadows. In the corner stood a broken mirror reflecting nothing but blackness. Carrie's heart raced. She stepped inside and noticed something glittering on the wooden floor. Kneeling down, she reached for it, a locket, its surface cold to the touch, engraved with a name she recognized. Lily. At that moment, the laughter transformed into a wail that echoed through the house, a mournful cry tearing at the walls. Carrie jumped to her feet, the locket slipping from her fingers. The shadows around her surged forward. Her instincts kicked in, and she turned to flee, realizing too late that the door had slammed shut behind her. Panic washed over her as hands seemed to grip at her ankles from the shadows, dragging her back toward the mirror. Carrie screamed, not sure whether it was the spirits of the house or the forgotten memories of Lily reaching for her. Outside, the townsfolk froze in horror, listening as Carrie's screams pierced the night. The door rattled, and panic spread like wildfire. What had she uncovered? What curse lay within those walls? In the deepening silence, something shifted. Could it be that the girl wasn't just a victim but an unwitting warden of the house's secrets? The townspeople exchanged fearful glances, their bodies taut with dread. Their thoughts collided in a frantic whisper. What happens now? Who will save Carrie? Carrie's screams echoed against the cold, hard walls of the decaying mansion, plunging deeper into the night. The townsfolk outside could only stand frozen, their collective breath caught in their throats. They felt powerless, watching as shadows danced and twisted behind the heavy door. "Someone has to go in," a man shouted, breaking the silence like a crack of thunder. His voice shot through the crowd, igniting a spark of courage mixed with dread. "Are you crazy? What if the house is cursed?" A woman retorted, clutching her child tightly. Her eyes darted back to the door, unsure if she wanted to risk losing more. But another figure stepped forward. It was old Mr. Thompson, the town historian, with a face that had seen too many winters. "We have to save her. If Lily went missing because of this place," his voice trailed off, eyes glazing with the memories of the stories he had shared with students, tales of sorrow and darkness that plagued the town for decades. Back inside, Carrie felt the heavy shadows intensifying, creeping closer, clutching at her like spectral hands. The air thickened, and the mirror shimmered, warping as if alive. She pressed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. Fear twisted her insides. She couldn't leave. It felt like the house had claimed her. "Lily," she yelled, desperation edging her voice. "What happened to you?" In an instant, the wailing softened, morphing into a whisper she barely caught. "Help me," the ghostly voice, sweet but tainted with sadness, wrapped around her like a chilling embrace. She felt a surge of determination. She wasn't just going to be a part of this nightmare. She needed to find Lily and save her. Summoning every ounce of courage, Carrie turned back to the mirror. Its dark surface flickered, revealing fleeting images imbued with sorrow. Lily, laughing, eyes gleaming with innocence, and then darkness sweeping over her. Carrie leaned closer. She noticed a glimmer behind the reflection. "What is this?" She reached out, fingers brushing the glass. Suddenly, the mirror rippled violently. Blinding light exploded in front of her, and she fell backward, landing hard on the floor. The world spun around her, and the whispers transformed into chaotic screams. Outside, the townsfolk saw the door suddenly burst open, splintering against the wall. They gasped, convictions wavering in an instant. Carrie's silhouette emerged, disheveled and wide-eyed. A ghost of herself, hair tangled and breathless. "Help! She's in here. We have to find her now," Carrie shouted, rushing toward them. Her eyes were wild, filling with panic and urgency. The locket, a piece of Lily's life, had been more than just a trinket. It was a key to breaking whatever was binding that girl to the shadows. But as the townsfolk moved forward, eager to help, the air shifted again, heavy and oppressive. An unseen presence loomed in the doorway, and a single chilling word slipped from the shadows, wrapping around them like a noose. "Leave." Carrie's bravery faltered, terrified. But there was no turning back. To leave would mean Lily, forever lost. Ignoring the rising dread, she stepped forward into the shadowy threshold. The laughter roared back, echoing through the night like a sinister melody, drowning out her thoughts. Each step drew her deeper, and a sinking feeling formed in her gut, with the townspeople hesitating behind her. She wondered, did they have the strength to face whatever had claimed Lily? Or were they, too, doomed to become whispers in the walls? As Carrie bravely plunged back into the darkness, the door slammed behind them once again, sealing their fate. Somewhere, in that house, a truth awaited to be uncovered. A revelation that could change everything. Would Carrie and the townsfolk find a way to unearth the secrets of the haunted house? Or would they become the next victims of its malevolent grip? The air within the mansion was thick with dread. Carrie felt the energy shift around her, like the weight of 1,000 angry souls pressing against her chest. The whispering darkness seemed to surge forward, hungry for her fear. "Lily," she gasped, heart pounding as shadows flickered around her, almost forming faces twisted in agony. She could hear them, hushed voices murmuring secrets, warning her to leave. But that wasn't an option. She couldn't abandon Lily to whatever horror lurked in this house. "Stay close," she shouted, her voice trembling, but it carried toward the townsfolk behind her. They were a mix of resolve and confusion, their faces pale under the moon's eerie glow. Mr. Thompson's age-worn figure stepped in next to Carrie, guiding the group with an air of authority. "Together, we can find her," he urged, though uncertainty shone in his eyes. "But we need to move quickly before it consumes us." As they ventured inside, the door slammed shut, resonating like a final judgment. The house creaked ominously, as if it had come alive, eager to swallow their hopes. "Where do we start?" a young man asked, voice shaking. He clutched a flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom but casting more shadows than light. Carrie pointed to the hall ahead, where the remnants of furniture lay shrouded in dust and despair. "The mirror, I saw something in there." Her voice quivered, but she fought against the encroaching panic. "Mirrors can be portals," Mr. Thompson warned, recalling old tales that sent shivers down spines. "What you see in them might not just be reflections. It could be invitations." The townsfolk exchanged worried glances, but there was no time for fear. They pressed onward, stepping over scattered belongings that whispered of happier days. Dust motes danced around them like specters, teasing at their minds. Each room they searched grew more sinister, filled with the kind of silence that screamed. An unsettling chill clung to the air, and Carrie felt invisible eyes watching, judging their every move. "Lily," she called again, her voice echoing through the corridor. Each syllable felt heavy, and with every shout, the silence frayed further. Suddenly, a low moan reverberated through the walls, halting their advance. The townsfolk froze, hushed whispers flowing through the crowd like ripples. "Did you hear that?" a woman gasped, eyes wide with terror. "It came from upstairs," Mr. Thompson confirmed, gesturing sharply. "We have to go." Climbing the staircase, the wooden steps protested under the weight of their collective fear. The air thickened with an energy so dark it felt alive. Carrie reached out to touch the banister, its cold surface sending chills through her fingers. A scratchy, desperate sound came from beyond a door at the end of the hall. "Help!" The voice was faint, almost a plea. It tickled at the back of Carrie's mind, pulling her closer. "It's her!" Carrie shouted, lunging toward the door. But just as she reached for the handle, An unseen force slammed it shut, rattling the frame. The townsfolk gasped, stepping back as the moan transformed into a furious shriek. The walls seemed to breathe, exhaling a wave of darkness that threatened to engulf them. "Get back," Mr. Thompson yelled, but it was too late. Shadows coalesced into a chilling form, a figure with hollow eyes that glowed like embers. "Leave this place," it boomed, as if the very foundation of the house quivered in response. Terrified, they turned to run, but Carrie's heart sank. She couldn't abandon Lily now. She had to face the darkness, even if it meant confronting the very thing that wanted to devour them. Tomorrow would bring either the rescue of a lost soul or the end of their search, and perhaps their lives. Despair mingled with urgency. Would she find the strength to break the curse? As they stood frozen, the haunting figure lurched forward with a shadowy hand reaching out. Carrie swallowed hard, preparing to confront whatever horror awaited them. What would happen when the truth was finally revealed? And could they withstand the chilling weight of the house's secrets? Carrie's breath caught as the shadowy figure advanced. Its eyes bore into her, and she felt the chill seep into her bones. The townsfolk stumbled backward, fear plastered across their faces. The air was electric with terror, but Carrie could feel a flicker of determination igniting within her. "Lily!" she cried one last time, her voice louder now, fueled by a desperate hope. To her surprise, a faint echo responded, adding strength to her plea. "Help me." It wasn't just a mournful wail. It was Lily, reaching out from the depths of the darkness, pulling Carrie toward her. The figure seemed to pause, as if contemplating whether to let them go or drag them into its abyss. "Stay together," Mr. Thompson called, his commands barely breaking through the chilling tension. "We have to hold our ground." With each word, Carrie felt her resolve strengthen. She turned to the townsfolk, their expressions shadowed with despair. "We can't be afraid. We have to push through this." As if to test them, the figure surged forward, tendrils of darkness wrapping around Carrie's limbs, squeezing tightly. She gasped, feeling the suffocating grip, but she fought against it, channeling her love for Lily into a fiery determination. In a surge of energy, she took a step forward. "We are not leaving without her," she shouted, her words cutting through the air like a knife. The townsfolk rallied behind her, gathering their courage like a shield against the dark. With a bold movement, Carrie raised her hand toward the malevolent figure. "Whatever you are, we won't be taken by your fear." The shadows writhed, as though recoiling from her defiance. It was as if the darkness had never encountered resistance before. Suddenly, the coldness surrounding them seemed to waver. The figure's glow dimmed, and for a brief moment, the walls of the mansion bowed inward, allowing a sliver of moonlight to seep through the cracks. The brightness illuminated the edges of the room, revealing details Carrie had missed before: the old wallpaper peeling like dead skin, dust-laden family portraits with hollow eyes, and the grand mirror at the far end that seemed to shimmer with life. "Look, the mirror!" someone shouted, pointing as hope glimmered in their eyes. Carrie's instincts surged. "That might lead us to Lily," she urged, not fully understanding why she felt such certainty. The other townsfolk hesitated, fear flickering between them, but the figure loomed back, angered by their hesitation. "Now!" Mr. Thompson shouted, and without thinking, they surged toward the mirror, arms linked like a chain of protection. As they reached it, the darkness pressed in, but they pushed through. The mirror's surface rippled like disturbed water, reflecting fleeting images, flashes of laughter, parties, and light. Then, it turned dark, showing a scene that sent chills down Carrie's spine. Lily, trapped, wide-eyed and pleading, surrounded by an endless void. "Help me, Carrie," she whispered, her voice echoing from the depths of the reflection. Determination cracked through the air like thunder. Carrie looked back, seeing the townsfolk rally around her, faces set in fierce resolve. "We're coming for you, Lily," she shouted, stepping closer, feeling the cold glass pressing against her skin. But the figure erupted in fury, swirling shadows blocking their path to the mirror. "Leave now or perish," it boomed, a cacophony of anguish rising around them, pushing against their minds. "Fight it! We are stronger together," Carrie yelled, undoing the grip of terror that held them. As the darkness clawed at them, Carrie felt an uneasy weight shift in her heart. What if they were not strong enough? With a deep breath, she reached toward the glass, her fingertips grazing the cool surface. Would they find a way to save Lily? Or would the mirror unleash the true horror of the mansion upon them? The moment Carrie touched the mirror, a surge of energy rippled through her hand. A flash of warmth ignited her spirit, replacing the relentless cold of the darkness. But the figure roared in indignation, shadows whipping around it like a tempest. It pushed forward, angry and undeterred, the air thickening with its rage. "Hold steady," Mr. Thompson bellowed, forcing himself between the shadows and the townsfolk. Sweat trickled down his brow, mingling with the tension in the air. "We can't let it scare us." Carrie felt her heart racing. Each beat echoed in her ears, drowning out the cries from the figure. "We're coming for her," she screamed again, her voice rising above the chaos. She pressed harder against the mirror, feeling the glass pulse under her touch. What if this was their only chance? The dimly lit room cracked with energy as the townsfolk began chanting together, a mantra of hope that reverberated off the walls. "Save Lily! Save Lily!" The intensity of their voices sharpened the air, a counterforce against the suffocating darkness. But the shadows lashed out, tendrils snaking toward them, seeking to grasp their minds and souls. Carrie felt one wrap around her leg like a vice, icy despair clawing at her resolve. "Fight it," she urged, pushing against the despair that threatened to consume her. "Remember why we're here." The townsfolk clung to her words, reminding themselves of the radiant light that Lily represented, her laughter, her kindness, the way she had touched their lives. With every thought, Carrie felt the grip of the darkness begin to weaken, like ice melting under the sun. Then, with a desperate shout, Carrie turned to the mirror. "Lily, we're here. Fight with us." The woman in the reflection shifted slightly, a flicker of recognition in her wide eyes. Carrie could see the faint glow emerging, fighting against the encroaching void. "Help me." Carrie Lily's voice echoed again, a thread of hope weaving through the chaos. She appeared so close, yet so far. Heart racing, Carrie positioned herself right in front of the mirror, feeling its cool surface against her face. "I'm coming for you," Carrie vowed, knowing she had to take that leap. She needed to push through this barrier. Just then, the figure surged again, and the shadows writhed violently, threatening to engulf them. "You cannot pass," it screamed, its voice a hollow echo filled with torment. But Carrie stood her ground, feet firm, anchored. "Together," Mr. Thompson shouted. Each person gathered their strength, forming a human wall of defiance against the shadows. Carrie felt their presence, their strength merging with hers, igniting a fiery rebellion against the despair surrounding them. With one collective breath, they surged forward, arms straining as they pressed against the mirror. The barrier rippled violently, a haze of darkness and light colliding. Then, just as it seemed hope might slip away, the mirror exploded into a blinding light, cracking open reality itself. Carrie felt herself being pulled into the shimmering portal, the scream of the figure echoing behind her, a sound of pure rage and despair. "Lily!" The last thing she heard as they vanished into the light was the sound of a final, haunting shriek from the shadowy figure as darkness enveloped her. Carrie held onto the flicker of hope within her, praying it would guide her to Lily. But as the light dimmed, heavy shadows crept into her vision again. Where would they land? What fate awaited them on the other side? The whispers of the mansion grew louder in her ears, threatening to swallow them whole. One question echoed in her mind: had they truly escaped, or had they walked straight into a deeper nightmare? The moment the light receded, Carrie's breath hitched in her throat. The world around her was a distorted blend of swirling shadows and ghostly textures, the air heavy with a palpable tension. She blinked hard, trying to steady herself against the disorienting wave of unease washing over her. "Where are we?" someone whispered, their voice barely above the sound of their racing heartbeats. Carrie turned. the sudden notion that they were not alone seeping into her mind. The flickering remnants of light revealed warped figures all around, resembling the very shadows they'd fought against. Her stomach twisted in knots. What if they were trapped in another dimension, a darker reflection of their own? "Stay close," Mr. Thompson urged, pushing his way to the front. "We need to find Lily. This has to be the place." As their eyes adjusted, shapes began to materialize within the gloom, items strewn about, coats of dust thick enough to snuff out hope along with the light. Familiar objects mocked them from a distance. A weathered chair, a portrait that resembled Lily's childhood, and the faded remnants of family photos scattered everywhere. Each detail tugged at Carrie's heart, and dread pooled in her stomach. "Look," Mr. Thompson pointed at the largest wall, the surface rippling like water, as if a scene were played out before them. Carrie squinted, breath catching in her throat. It showed a younger Lily, smiling brightly in a sunlit garden. But this was not just a memory, it felt alive. Every moment held a gravity that pulled them in, yet twisted the joy of those scenes with an unmistakable sorrow. "Lily," Carrie called out, desperation tinging her voice. "Where are you?" The echo of her words seemed to resonate through the shadows, fading into a silence that wrapped around them like a shroud. She stepped forward, but something twisted in her gut, a sense of being watched by hidden eyes lurking within the dark corners. Suddenly, a guttural growl reverberated through the air, bouncing off the walls like thunder. A chill traveled along Carrie's spine, and she spun around, heart racing. The shadows thickened ahead, coalescing into nightmarish forms, the very specters they had fought against. They slithered closer, hunger glinting in the ether, feeling their fear in the air. "Move!" Mr. Thompson shouted as he shoved Carrie and the others forward, but the shadows lunged, snatching at them with icy tendrils. Carrie felt the cold slip around her like a vice, her heart pounding loudly, drowning out the echo of the past and shoving her deeper into the present. "No, we can't give up," she screamed, channeling every ounce of her strength. She gripped the mirror piece still clutched in her hand, reflecting shards of light onto the dark monsters before them. "Lily, you have to fight," Carrie yelled again, urging the warmth in her heart outward. Struggling against the icy tendrils threatening to pull her under, she pushed through the fear, determined to connect with Lily, to break whatever spell had taken her sister into this abyss. But a flash of movement caught her eye, something shifting within the shadows. A shape, too small to belong to the tall specters, stumbled into her vision. A faint gleam of light pierced the darkness, illuminating the figure of a girl. Carrie helped it was Lily, but her voice was anguished, pulling at the corners of Carrie's resolve. "Lily!" Carrie reached out, desperately wanting to bridge the gap between them. Yet, just as she thought she could reach out and grab her, the shadows closed in, swallowing Lily's form back into the depths. "No!" The scream tore from Carrie's lips, echoing into the void. A chill settled deeper in Carrie's chest as she realized the truth. They had not escaped the nightmare at all. They had merely walked into a trap, and if they didn't find their way back, they might all become part of the shadows forever. As the darkness loomed close, ready to swallow them whole, one thought pierced through the panic. Would anything ever be the same again, or would their fates be locked in this horror forever? With renewed determination, Carrie grasped the mirror piece tightly and prepared for the fight of her life. What did this place want from them, and could they ever turn the tide against the unforgiving darkness? Carrie's heart raced as the shadows closed in, their dark forms writhing and twisting in an unnatural dance. The ethereal chill seeped into her bones, gnawing at her resolve. She glanced around at her friends, their faces pale, eyes wide with terror. Each of them was caught in the web of fear, but they needed to act. "Focus," Mr. Thompson shouted, fighting off tendrils that lunged toward him. He waved the mirror piece, and its surface gleamed with a threatening light, casting defiant beams into the darkness. It was their only weapon. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of hopelessness echoing through the air. Each sound gripped Carrie's heart, a reminder of the fate that awaited them if they couldn't escape. They had to find Lily and make it out before the shadows consumed them. Lily, she called again, her voice firm but crossing a line into desperation. Surely her sister could hear her, but with every passing second, that glimmer of hope blinked dimmer. Suddenly, the wall across from them rippled once more. The darkness pulled back as if it were fabric being drawn away. A doorway? The idea sparked a flicker of hope within her. Another growl resonated from the shadowy figures, freezing her soul. They were moving again closer. "We need to go now," Carrie shouted, motioning urgently towards the flickering doorway. The group hesitated, but fear overcame hesitation, and they scrambled towards the fleeting light as they rushed into the opening. Carrie's eyes darted back, searching for any sign of Lily. The shadows poured in behind them, their cries morphing into tortured wails that echoed in Carrie's mind, weaving dread like a tightly knit noose. They burst into a new space, a large chamber filled with shimmering reflections and broken glass, the shards countless like memories abandoned and lost. Reflection after reflection twisted around them. Some showed pleas for help while others flaunted ghastly laughter. Carrie's stomach lurched. "Keep moving," shouted Mr. Thompson, his voice cutting through the haze of fear. Carrie gripped the mirror tight, its surface warm against her skin, a reminder of who she was fighting for. That warmth wrapped around the chill in her heart and chased some of the dread away. Where is she? Carrie thought, still sensing Lily's presence just beyond her reach. If only she could connect with her sister, if only she could find a way to penetrate the darkness that separated them. But as they maneuvered deeper into the chamber, the air shimmered more intensely. Shadows writhed along the walls, and the reflections began to grow sinister. One image, in particular, caught her attention. It showed Lily, trapped within a shadow, staring directly at Carrie. "Carrie, please," the voice wavered, echoing eerily like a ghostly memory. "Lily," Carrie cried out, her heart hammering in her chest. The world seemed to tilt as the mirror piece flickered, losing its glow. "No." Mr. Thompson clutched at it, desperation painting his features. "We need to keep it bright." The shadows danced around them, and the tension grew, borrowing from the darkness that thrummed in the air. Carrie felt the pressure thickening, bearing down on her chest as if the very essence of the void was trying to squeeze the life from them. "Think. We have to remember what connected us to Lily," Carrie yelled, her voice barely reaching above the chaotic shadows. "It's love. It's always been." Suddenly, the reflections shifted and in a jagged mirror, a horrific image surfaced. She saw her sister, eyes wide and filled with fear, trapped in a dark pit, unable to escape. Shadows crept closer, devouring the light around her. "Lily, we're coming," Carrie yelled, her voice filled with a blend of panic and promise. But as she turned toward Mr. Thompson, the frantic whispers of the shadows erupted into an anguishing roar. The walls began to close in, and the light dimmed. "Stay together," Mr. Thompson shouted, but the shadows hissed, and one of them lunged, its tendrils wrapping around Carrie's ankle. She fell, the chill wrapping around her throat like a noose. She gasped, heart pounding, as darkness threatened to pull her down. She needed to fight, to believe, to scream for her sister. "Lily." In that moment of panic, clarity struck. If the shadows thrived on fear, they must also have a weakness. "Face your fear," she thought fiercely. "Fight back." But would it be enough? Would the light be strong enough to save them all as the shadows converged, their hungry mouths curling into sinister grins? Carrie struggled to free herself, determination igniting in her heart. The mirror piece flickered again, begging to shine. As the darkness loomed, she took a deep breath, clenching the shard, preparing for a burst of blinding light. Was this the end, or the beginning of her fight against the shadows? Would Carrie be able to channel her love into an unyielding force against the nightmare closing in on them? The moment hovered, teetering between hopelessness and hope, the world teetering around it. Carrie's breath hitched as she felt the weight of despair. The shadows lunged with a ferocity that sent chills racing up her spine. She struggled in their grip, every instinct screaming for her to fight. In that swirling darkness, she remembered the warmth of her sister's embrace, the deep connection that pulsed like a heartbeat between them. Lily, she shouted, forcing the name into the air, knowing that it might reach her sister somehow. As if in response, the mirror piece in Mr. Thompson's hand flared brightly. The shadows recoiled, but their cries only intensified, an eerie symphony woven of torment and hunger. Carrie seized that glimmer, every ounce of her being focused on it, fueling it with her determination and love. "Close your eyes," Mr. Thompson commanded. He was trembling, but his voice remained firm. Everyone instinctively obeyed. In that instant of darkness, Carrie drew on her memories, her bond with Lily serving as an anchor against the void. Images of their childhood flickered before her eyes, sunlight streaming through the leaves in their backyard, laughter echoing as they ran through the sprinklers, each moment a thread pulling them closer. With the shadows pressing in, Carrie willed the mirror to shine brighter. She imagined it as a beacon, a lighthouse guiding her sister back to safety. Suddenly, a low growl erupted from the shadows, rippling like a tidal wave. It charged toward them, and in that split second, the mirror blazed with a pure, blinding light. The chamber erupted in a flash that cast away the shadows, sending them retreating like skittish animals. "Now!" shouted Mr. Thompson. "Run!" Carrie sprang into motion, heart pounding as she and her friends raced toward the light streaming from the mirror. Behind them, the shadows shrieked, curling into the dark corners of the chamber as if the brightness peeled back layers of their form. "Lily!" Carrie shouted again, pushing through fear as they made their way down a corridor that opened up before them, illuminated by an otherworldly glow. The reflections lining the walls twisted and warped. Some displayed terrifying scenarios of what might happen if they failed. But a few glimmers showed Carrie that her sister was still out there, still fighting. With each step, the remnants of doubt whispered in her ears. What would happen if they lost the light? Would it be enough to hold back the encroaching darkness? They skidded to a halt at another doorway. Carrie pressed her ear against it, hearing nothing but a terrifying silence. "Do we go in?" whispered one of her friends, trembling. "Lily." Carrie's heart ached with desperation. "We have to find her." Mr. Thompson stepped forward, prepared to take charge. "We stick together. Fear is our enemy. We don't let it win." Just then, a sharp voice penetrated the hush. "Carrie, help!" It was Lily's voice, frantic with desperation yet echoing faintly, as if coming from the depths of another world. Her heart dropped. "That way." Carrie pointed to the door, her feet moving before doubt could sink its claws into her. "Wait." Mr. Thompson grabbed her arm, his voice serious. "Do we know for sure what's on the other side?" But Carrie was already pushing the door open, her heart soaring with hope, fingers grasping for her sister. The shadows prickled at her skin like static, but the light from the mirror flickered stronger, urging her on. As they stepped through, the other side unfolded in a surreal maze, twisting paths layered in shadows, each one a potential trap. The air thickened, woven with echoes of lost souls, but the call for help rang clear. "Keep moving," Carrie yelled, keeping her focus sharp. Suddenly, a deafening roar reverberated, and the shadows congealed, swirling like a frenzied storm. The path before them darkened, consumed by despair. The door slammed shut behind them, trapping them in the chaos. "Stay close," Mr. Thompson shouted as they were thrust into a swirling vortex of darkness. Carrie's heart raced. The shadows were more furious now, an unrelenting force as the fear threatened to swallow them whole. She yelled, "Lily, we're coming." But would they reach her in time? Would they find her before the shadows dragged all of them into the abyss? The answer teetered on the edge, each heartbeat echoing the question they all feared. With shadows swirling and her sister's voice fighting for attention, Carrie braced for what awaited them. But in the ever-looming dark, would their bond prove strong enough to crack the suffocating shadows? They had to find out before it was too late. Carrie's heart thundered in her chest as the shadows writhed around her, desperate and unforgiving. She could feel the urgency swell within her, feeding on her love for Lily. "We can't give up," she shouted, channeling every ounce of strength into her words. The echo of her sister's voice, fragile yet insistent, urged her forward through the chaotic maze. "Help! Carrie!" Each cry felt like a tether pulling Carrie toward her sister, igniting fierce determination within her soul. The shadows surrounding them swirled, threatening to close in. But with the light from the mirror shimmering in their midst, hope flickered like a candle against the overwhelming dark. "Hold on, Lily," she yelled, pushing her way through the oppressive blackness. Mr. Thompson and the townsfolk surged alongside her, that collective spirit becoming a fortress against the consuming shadows. "Stay united," he encouraged, glancing back at the splitting darkness. With each step, the air thickened, weighed down by despair, but Carrie planted her feet firmly, refusing to let fear bind them. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos, the unmistakable laughter of Lily, ringing like music through the shadows, clear and bright. "Carrie." She could feel it, Lily's spirit shining even in darkness. The shadows recoiled, offended by the sound of joy. "Follow the laughter," Carrie urged, her own spirit rekindled. Together, they rushed forward, hearts synchronized in purpose. They pressed deeper, navigating the once terrifying maze that had morphed into a beacon of hope. Every inch they moved felt like a defiance of the dark, and the glow of the mirror pulsed steadily in response. The swirling darkness laughed, mocking their determination. "You cannot hope to save her," it screeched, a reverberation that sent shockwaves through their hearts. But Carrie pressed on, and the group followed, eyes fixed on the doorway ahead where the laughter crescendoed as they burst through the entrance. The chamber opened up, revealing a scene illuminated in ghostly light. There she stood, Lily, trapped within a shimmering sphere of shadows. Her face glowed with a mix of fear and determination, eyes wide as she reached out toward Carrie. "Help me. I can't hold on much longer." Carrie's breath hitched seeing her sister so close yet so far. "I'm here," she shouted, rushing forward, the warmth of love radiating through her resolve. "We'll break this together. If you wish to save her." The dark figure snarled, its twisted form materializing at the edge of the chamber. "You must face your worst fears." The figure loomed ominously, shadows slithering from it, trying to stifle Carrie's confidence. "I will," she exclaimed, planting her feet firmly. "Whatever it is, I'll face it for Lily. For us." The townsfolk aligned, reinforcing her bravery. "Let us do this together." Mr. Thompson rallied, lifting the mirror piece high. Its light intensified, igniting a brilliant glow that pushed back the encroaching shadows. The dark figure shrieked, a sound filled with malice and fury. "You will all fall to despair," it bellowed, but Carrie felt a rush of courage welling inside her. "We're not afraid," she shouted, her voice weaving through the air like a lifeline. The shadows surged, but this time they were met with a united front. The mirror flared with the warmth and love they had shared, and in that moment, it became a shield. "Shine," Carrie called, and together they concentrated, pouring every memory of laughter, light, and joy into that beam of light. "Lily," the laughter echoed, a reminder of the bond they shared. "You are loved. We will never abandon you." As the shadows screamed in anguish, the surface of the shimmering sphere flickered. "Help me." Lily's voice soared like a beacon. With sheer determination, Carrie stepped forward once more, clutching the mirror piece firmly and reaching out with her other hand in response. The light cascaded around them, engulfing them in a warm embrace. The shadows recoiled, their essence shattering like glass under the force of their combined love. "Now," Mr. Thompson shouted, and together they surged toward Lily. With a final burst of energy, Carrie dove into the shimmering sphere, her hand finding Lily's. "I've got you," she cried, pulling her sister close. The light exploded in every direction, washing away the last remnants of darkness, and within an instant, they were engulfed in brightness. When the glare faded, they found themselves outside under the moonlit sky, the air brimming with silent relief. For a moment, no one moved, only looking at one another, disbelief and joy intertwining. "Carrie?" Lily whispered, slightly trembling, yet her eyes sparkled with gratitude. "I'm here." "You're safe," Carrie assured her, wrapping her sister in a firm, protective embrace. The townsfolk surrounded them, tears of relief and joy flowing freely, guilt and fear washed away like dirt in the rain. "We did it." A voice broke through, and everyone exchanged glances, a silent understanding bonding them. "Yes," Mr. Thompson agreed, the weariness evident in his eyes but overshadowed by pride. "We faced the darkness," he declared, "and we came back stronger." With a collective sigh, the tension dissipated. But Carrie knew they would always carry a piece of that night within them. They had faced fear together and emerged victorious as they walked away from the haunted house. Its brooding silhouette stood behind them, a reminder of what once was but no longer suffocated them. Together they moved forward, hand in hand, fostering memories filled with laughter and connection. Carrie looked up at the stars, her heart swelling with hope. They had conquered the shadows. They had found Lily. They had, against all odds, salvaged not only a soul, but their own. Now, as she embraced the future, one thing was clear. This would not be their last adventure. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to our channel, so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And you must share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference, and only true fans know how vital it is to back the channel.